Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the multiverse, wherever you might be listening, on the distant planet, on the Zerg colony. If you're listening to this on the Zerg colony, welcome, my overlords. And even on a different world where the Brood have taken over, but the war is still being fought. So you're basically watching this while you're resting and hoping to God that you're still surviving. My name is Rogue Convoy, and welcome back to Ultimate Mayhem. This is StarCraft week. So, yesterday I talked about Jim Raynor and his basically his whole career and a little bit about his past. Now, today we're going to talk again about, we're going to go into the Zerg category. And I didn't think it would be appropriate to talk about the Overmind and all that. I figured it was at that point where we could talk about possibly just having Sarah Kerrigan or talking about the Brood Queen, which again, both apply in this case. So at that point, I decided, okay, we're going to go Sarah Kerrigan because she is the Queen of Blades. And the StarCraft 2 expansion is based on her. One of the expansions for StarCraft 2 is based on her. So I thought that was the idea to go with. So with that, please put your tray tables up, sit back, relax, travel with me through this world, and welcome to Ultimate Mayhem, Sarah Kerrigan edition. All right. So, Sarah Louise Kerrigan began life in the year 2473. So again, we're heading back into the future. We're heading about 400 years into the future at this point. Or 450 years into the future, I should say, at this point. And when she was quite young, with a small burst of her anger, she killed her mother by causing her head to explode. So when reading this, you know what, I found the fascination that, you know, she's a really powerful psychic, but cannot control her anger. Once the Confederacy then learned of her abilities, and hence made her one of the stars of their Ghost program. So they were having an issue with the Ghost program, but once they found out who Sarah Kerrigan was and whatnot, they brought her in for the Ghost program. The implants they used to control and even dampen her powers left her a shell of her former self. They had to change their scoring of their tests because her powers were off the charts, and the current charts did not allow for them to score properly. So there was a bunch of different tests they did with her and whatnot, you know, abilities and shooting and courage and all this stuff. And, you know, the program did not allow for them to mount for that question. She rose quickly through the Ghost program as she tested pretty well on every ability she had. So again, we're mentioning the whole courage and all that leadership thing. She rose quickly because of who she was. And also the fact that they could mold her, break her down, and rebuild her. So what was left of her humanity was taken away from her, and she was only given a number, Ghost number 24601. After she had left the program, Kerrigan went to work for the corrupt government, so that the corrupt government that I'm mentioning here is the Confederacy, and becoming one of their top assassins. When a senator, Angus Manx, so you remember that name from the last video, we're possibly going to be talking about this in a second here, give me a second, declared his people independent away from the Confederacy. Kerrigan and two of her peers snuck into his headquarters and then assassinated the senator. She was captured, then taken to a black site, and became one of the few experimented on with the Zerg. So the Confederacy then captured her and took her to a black site where they just did a ton of experiments on her to see how her latent psychic abilities could be used with the Zerg and see if they could control it. Kerrigan then received liberation from the Confederation by Arcturus Manx. Now, we've mentioned him before several times with Jim Raynor. Now we're going to talk about him in the events with Sarah Kerrigan. And he is also the son of the senator that Kerrigan assassinated, Angus Manx. And he is the leader of the rebellion group, the Sons of Coral. Manx took out the implant that the Confederation put in her and helped to restore the memories that they had hid from her for the longest time. So they implanted a chip there. She basically couldn't remember who she was and all that. Arcturus removed it and helped her remember basically who she was, using and letting her powers do whatever the hell they want, basically. And after that, she became the 2IC for the group, the Sons of Coral, and was given given the lieutenant as her rank. And they also helped free her memory so she could direct any anger she had and basically use that to help her powers. A year after her liberation, that was the first time she met Jim Raynor. Now, she met Raynor obviously after the fact, and after he joined them, or had just joined them. If you haven't seen my last video, take a pause here, go watch the last video. Legitimately, go watch the last video. Using her psychic powers, she caught him thinking of some dirty thoughts about her and hence got offended. So you're listening to this during the game and it's like, and then they stop for a second. Oh, you dirty pig or something like that. I don't remember what it was. And he's like, what? I didn't say anything. No, but you were thinking it. Kerrigan used her cloaking device to head into the Antiguan command center and killed one of the Confederate officers, hence leading to a war between the Confederacy and the Sons of Coral. Shortly after this, Manx gave an order to Raynor to save one of the Confederate generals, Edmund Duke, but Kerrigan did not like the idea, and Manx basically said, okay, you know what? You may not like the idea. I'm higher ranked than you. Eat it. So 2 hours after the previous events, the Confederacy arrives on the planet, setting up their base camp within the group's defense. So they set it within the perimeter of the Sons of Coral's defense. Manx then gets his crew together, where Kerrigan explained what the experiments they had done upon it were for, and that Jim Raynor had stolen plans for a device that could amplify the signal of a ghost, to basically drive the Zerg in. Kerrigan was then ordered to deliver the item and lure the Zerg to the base camp of the Confederation. She puts up a protest saying that she basically believes that no one deserves that type of treatment. And Manx basically calls her on it saying, okay, well, your past is clouding your judgment on it, hence, just go and do it. And Kerrigan completes her task, and she asks him, will you ever make me do this again? Which she never really got an answer for. After traveling on the flagship of the Sons of Coral, the Hyperion, to Tarsonis, the capital of the Confederacy, Kerrigan was shocked to find out that, he'd done the same thing, but all around the entire planet this time. And she disagreed with Manx, but he again pulled rank, and said, nope, do what we gotta do. After she had finished the Protoss and the Zerg had advanced on her, Kerrigan tried to get an evacuation from the planet before she took on a Hydralisk. So, if you haven't seen these, are like these little things that have the arms like this, but they attack and they're pretty cool, actually. Their evolution is great, too, I'm mad. And then she basically comes to the realization she's being left to die on the planet, as she had not gotten a response on the evac. When she became surrounded, she dropped her gun, and basically just let what was about to happen. So the Zerg Overmind, so this thing that everyone's been trying to kill for the last little while, noticed Kerrigan's psychic abilities and allowing her to be one of the ones who could overall save the Zerg. So the dark voice that was controlling them and whatnot, the Overmind believed Kerrigan could override them and basically allow them to live on their own. He locked her away in a chrysalis. Inside the chrysalis, Kerrigan went from being a Terran to becoming one of the Zerg members. When the cocoon breaks open, Kerrigan emerged from it, and Manx, who had become the Emperor of the Terrans at that point, had heard the cry of Kerrigan. So in the chrysalis, she was basically sending out signals to people so she can get some help. And he sent his forces to the planet Char. Now, Jim Raynor, hearing the same thing, arrives on the planet as well to investigate with his men. This is when the new brood attacks both the Dominion forces and Raynor's crew. And even though Kerrigan had kept most of her humanity, she was still connected to the will of the Overmind. Kerrigan had also been given more freedom from her ethics, and basically, so anything she believed, she was basically given a freedom from because of the fact that she joined up with the Zerg and been reincarnated as the Queen of Blades. Kerrigan then gave herself the name of Queen of Blades and assaulted the head Templar Tassadar. Tassadar just served as the distraction, as Zeratul had killed the Cerebrit Zaz. Zaz, though, could not be revived by the Overmind, and hence Kerrigan showed no remorse over this. So the Cerebrit died. Overmind was a little bit devastated, but the Kerrigan was like, yeah, I don't care. With the death of the Overmind and the United Earth Dominion, I don't remember what the hell it was, the UED, Kerrigan then began a campaign to assert her dominance, hence causing the Brood War. So she basically said, okay, now that I'm free of the Overmind, I'm going to start doing things my way, and we're going to create a way to do this. She was able to manipulate the Protoss and took control of Zeratul. She arranged an alliance between Mengsk, Raynor, and Fenix to help her fight the United Earth Directorate. That's what it was. After she used this new alliance to defeat the UED, she turned on them, murdering several prominent figures, including Edmund Duke and Fenix. So remember the Dragoon Fenix that walks around with you? Yeah, she killed him. She killed the number 2. And now Raynor swore revenge and promised to kill her. So we're back basically where we started with Jim Raynor, or at the end of Jim Raynor's story. With that, I've come to the end of Queen of Blades. So this is the ending of our Queen of Blades video. So you got to see an ascent from being just a ghost who's locked away by the Terrans to becoming the 2IC of the new Empire, and then basically becoming her own woman and doing her own thing as the Queen of Blades. Queen of the Swarm, I should say, sorry. Now, with that, we've covered our Terran and our Zerg. Well, if you really think about this, this was a combination of Terran and Zergs. And so tomorrow we're going to talk about the Dark Templar leader himself, Zeratul. And like I said previously, there wasn't really much information of me to work with. So I did something on the Nerazim as well, the Dark Templars themselves. So let the multiverse be your guide. Allow it to open doors and windows to new things for you. My name is Rogue Convoy, and this has been Ultimate Mayhem, Sarah Kerrigan Edition.